Ed here. Welcome to CxO Box Season 2, Episode 3 bonus for asking the right questions. And so in the vignette, we had the salesman Wolfgang asking CxO Bach a lot of questions about different areas of his organization and getting into a level of detail, at least within the vignette. The implication was such. And you heard the answers from the CxO. And this happens all too often, believe it or not, hence why this episode, where the sales exec finally gets in the door, gets that meeting, and then just asks all the wrong questions. And so let me break it down a little bit. But first, let me acknowledge that there are multiple personas, right? When you're dealing with a CxO, it's going to depend on the organization generally. And sometimes it comes down to the person specific, so not one size fits all. But and the persona that we're talking about here is more of a sophisticated system, maybe academic medical center, multi-state, multi-hospitals, maybe has a provider. Now, a smaller hospital, like a community-based hospital, maybe a single hospital, they're not going to have the same size of IT staff. They're not going to have the same levels of complexity, although still very challenging work. And so the persona may be different because they'll be wearing many, many hats that, if you're leading a 1,500 strong IT organization, you're not going to be wearing as many hats. So let's get that out of the way on the personas. Yeah, of course, there's going to be an exception. So there's really two reasons why this whole line of questioning, it happens all the time, is not the best use of your time, nor will you make, as a sales exec, a very good impression. First, a good leader empowers their people. They hire someone that they believe in and they empower them. They agree on some objectives for the role. Let's just pick on the CISO to make sure that we're safe from cyber criminals. Nothing bad happens. That's the responsibility now of the CISO. It's been delegated down. Your job as a leader is empower them, remove obstacles, those sorts of things. Now, if I start getting in that person's business all the time, then I've removed that responsibility for them. It's like why I never got involved with other people's hiring decisions, because ultimately they have to own that hire. Why would I get involved in the hiring decision for someone that's not reporting to me? I never understood that, because what you're doing by implication is you're not really showing your belief in your direct report to make good decisions. And then ultimately they can always say, well, I didn't want to hire them, but my boss made me hire them. And that's not good. That's not healthy. So I let them make decisions. So I'd get approached by sales execs all the time. So again, just a fictitious example with cybersecurity. Hey, we got this new system and it's the best thing ever. And you should have it. And why don't you have it? And what vendors, do you look at it? Why do you do this? And I'm always like, I hired this really good CISO and you should talk to them, because they're the persons that are responsible for this area and accountable for the outcomes of this area, and they make the decisions for this area. If they ever need me, I'm there for them, but I'm not the person to get involved. So that's one. The second thing is detail. So you have to realize that as a CIO, you wear many hats, but ultimately you're more of a strategist and a leader than you are a tech person. So someone comes in and starts asking me about our tech stack, or I don't know. I can think of so many real examples. They're almost funny, but like, I don't know how many terabytes of data do we store on a daily basis? I don't know. I never knew. I knew it was a lot, but I empowered our CTO and expected her to know all those answers and to manage those systems. And I would just help remove obstacles or get them new equipment or whatever I needed to do to make them successful. So they're not going to be into that much detail, and they don't really want to talk about that. That's not what they're really focused on. So instead of those type of questions, so realize, I think the point is that oftentimes you think, oh, I'm going to meet with the CIO. I'm going to meet with the CIO. Yes, I scored, but actually you haven't, because the CIO, if they're a decent leader, are going to give the answers that I was sharing with you, in that you need to talk to the CTO. You need to talk to the CMIO. You need to talk to the CNIO. You need to talk to anyone but that CIO. So you've just wasted some cycles on your side as well as the CIO. So not going to be too excited about it. So ask about things that the CIO is really focused on, which are going to be strategy. And then within strategy, sometimes they will take on something very specific, like during the pandemic for sure. And even before the pandemic, when I was in my last CIO role, I was responsible for digital strategy. So that was a thing. I was deep in that. And eventually, with the plan to hire someone that would oversee, virtual and all the different things that we were doing there. But I was definitely owning that was part of our overall strategy. It was really critical to the success of our organization. And so I took that on. But generally, it's like overall leadership, overall strategy. What are we talking? What are we trying to do? And it rarely has anything to do with IT. Okay, so let that sink in for a second. If you're in a sophisticated health system, as I was describing that persona earlier, your objectives and key results or KPIs are not going to have anything directly to do with technology. They are going to be the OKRs of the business. So people used to say, what are the OKRs for IT? I was like, I don't know. Let's go look at the OKRs for the business because they're the same. So ask about that. Like, you're trying to double the number of lives served, or you're trying to, strategic initiative might be growth or might be M&A. So talk about that at a strategic leadership level. So if you have a product service to sell there, that's where you want to be. You want to be with the CIO. But most people, they aim too high, it takes them too much effort to get there. And ultimately, they should have aimed lower and had a more meaningful conversation and not wasted anyone's time. So I hope that's helpful. I know that I could appreciate it, and many of my colleagues that I interact with can appreciate it as well. So really be prudent about who you're meeting with, understanding what their sort of pain points are, what their hot buttons are, what they're really responsible for, and go for it. And I think you'll have a much more productive meeting. All right, that's it. Thanks for watching the bonus material for season 2, episode 3, Asking the Right Questions.